Welcome to For Fresno. My name is Gordon, and this is a podcast about what the church is for, not what the church is against. And you can check out all our podcasts at forfresno.com. Today on the show, I have the pleasure of speaking with Dr. Anniefujikawa. She is the Director of Missions and Member Care at LinkCare. Annie graduated at Biola University with her PhD in clinical psychology. She loves mentoring college students and joined the faculty at Fresno Pacific University in 2013. The following year, in 2014, Dr. Fujikawa joined LinkCare. She uses a relational approach to therapy and is currently pursuing certification in emotionally focused couples therapy. Dr. Fujikawa enjoys working with adults facing any number of challenges. So let's go ahead and jump into this conversation. Welcome to the For Fresno podcast. My name is Gordon, and today I'm excited to share with you another LinkCare member. A couple weeks ago, we interviewed Jennifer Smith with LinkCare. She's the CEO there, but we have another LinkCare member, Annie Fujikawa. She is the Director of Missions and Member Care. Annie, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm excited because we're going to talk more about missions and member care within LinkCare. And this is something that I'm not necessarily familiar with as well. And so we're going to learn a lot during this episode. But I think one of the most important things is we want to learn about what you do with missionaries, how you take care of them, and why does this part exist? Because for me, whenever I go to church and I sit there and the pastor is commissioning these missionaries off to a third world country, I just think, gosh, man, I don't have that gene or something. And I'm like, wow, they're so spiritual and it's sunshine and rainbows and they're going to do so great. And then once they go, I just kind of have this fantasy idea of them saving the third world country and doing that. So tell us a little bit about how that's false, because obviously I know that doesn't really happen. But tell us about LinkCare, Missions, Member Care, and some of your experiences with what you do.
Yeah, thank you, Gordon. I think you are capturing beautifully what so many people think about missionaries, and what I hear often from missionaries that are here, just how hard that is for them, because there often is a lot of pressure and expectations to do just that, to go to a third world country and to just, have this amazing impact spreading the gospel. And we fail to really remember that missionaries are people that struggle just like we struggle every day with such normal things in life, conflict, mental health. And then you add on that the stress of living apart from your normal support systems, learning new languages. So missionaries encounter a considerable amount of stress and oftentimes crisis and trauma. And so LinkCare was founded many years ago to serve missionaries and to be a place where they could leave the field, so they could come to the U.S. and stay and get really good care. And so our program is called the Restoration and Personal Growth. So the idea is they can come and live on our campus, they stay in our apartments, and they have all of the things that they need to live comfortably. And then they engage in this program to help them. And people come for all sorts of different reasons. People might come because they've been on the field for 2 or 3 years, and they just need a time to kind of decompress and process through what has been happening as they've served, in China, all those places. Sometimes they come because they've experienced a significant trauma and they need to do really intensive trauma work. Maybe they've been on the field and they encounter things like all marriages do, infidelity, severe conflict. So they come to work on that. And the unique thing about our program is because it's not a curriculum standard thing where people are coming and, you're in class for, 2 hours and then you do this. It's really intensive therapy. So we can, because we have a big clinical and pastoral team, we can kind of create a program that meets the unique needs of people who are coming.
Right.
So we have
like
single missionaries, families, all kinds of people.
Yeah, I was going to say, like you said, probably there's so many different reasons that there is no one size fits all curriculum. I mean,
exactly.
You might even see, not necessarily, I'm sure you've seen, almost everything so you have a wide breadth, but everybody's new in the sense of they probably have new experiences to them, and they have different personalities. And like you said, just thinking in the idea of all the normal stuff of life where infidelity or anxiety or addiction happens just
Yep.
in every day, but then on top of that, language barriers, cultural barriers,
Yeah.
all that kind of stuff. That's a lot to take in for
It is a
missionaries.
lot to take in. Yeah. And I think a lot of missions organizations really do their best to try and prepare their missionaries for the mission field. But sometimes you just don't know. You don't know what the challenges that they're going to have.
Right.
And so we can do your best to help prepare people, but we need a place that people can come and get the kind of intensive work that they need. A lot of people think about doing that and they think, oh, like I must have to be really messed up to do that, right? And it's like, no, this actually can be also a place where you get a tune-up, so to speak, so that you are able to sustain in ministry, so that you are able to go back. We would really like people to think of our program to meet needs all across the spectrum. Maybe it's helping them prepare, maybe it's sort of midway through, or maybe it is when they've really hit a significant roadblock or crisis, and then they can come here and do that work.
Yeah, just for perspective, and I don't know if you have a stat, but give us an idea of how many people that maybe go and do missions do you think come back with more of a, not necessarily a negative experience, but just something where their eyes were open, or maybe there was trauma. I mean, how much of it is the sunshine and rainbows where they're just like, it's the perfect fit versus, missionaries that need help and a tune up and all the things you just said?
Yeah, I would say probably every missionary who goes onto the field will encounter a period of what I would call like kind of disillusionment or like, whoa, I had no idea what this was really going to be like. And then there's a considerable amount of variability then to what people do with that. Do they stay on the field? Missions organizations have different ways of responding to that. But I think if you're not a missionary, you're not familiar with the mission community, you do have a pretty skewed view of just how hard it is and how much missionaries need. They need a tremendous amount of support. They also have a lot of challenges that they're kind of live in a fishbowl, right? Everybody's watching them. They're trying to serve them. Everybody's wanting to, pray for them. And so there's, I think, a lot of pressure on them too, to present like everything is okay, or if they don't, then there's often I think some kind of concerns that then they're gonna be pulled off the mission field because they really weren't ready. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be that way. One of our cool stats is that about 70% of those that come to LinkCare return to the mission field.
Oh, that's amazing. That's great. Yeah, and also when you were mentioning those stats, I was thinking there's probably a huge financial investment involved too. Your friends and family, and that comes. I think that was kind of what you're saying with the pressure, but the church gives a financial investment. Your friends and family give a financial investment, and to think that people are, donating to your cause, and then you feel like you failed that cause. That could feel. I can see how that could be really overwhelming and
very
just
much
feel like
so.
you let everybody down.
Very much so. Yeah, I hear that a lot from our missionaries as they process what it means to be here. There's sometimes even this sense of, oh, if I'm at LinkCare, that means I'm requiring even more investment, right? This is expensive, and I'm requiring more. As now I'm not even on the field doing my work too. So that is, it's really pretty challenging.
Well, it is encouraging, just going back to the stat really quick, that 70% of the people that come through your program are the ones that are going back out into the field, because this is what we need, right? If we didn't have organizations like yours and programs like yours with LinkCare, think about those people that would just stay and that failed, and then the reputation missions would get. And so it's just really exciting to know that while everybody, whether you're a missionary or not, has struggles and fails in life, that we have an organization that can that can learn, that can teach, that can specifically help the needs of missionaries to get them up and going again for what they think
Yeah.
God has called them to do.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting. And so just quickly, going back, missionaries can live there, right? They can
Yeah.
come and they live for extended period of time. They can
Mm-hmm.
get counseling there.
Mm-hmm.
And are there other activities or things that they go, or is it mostly just a time to be restored in that way?
Our program is designed to give people kind of some rest time and
Right.
downtime,
Mhm.
as well as some pretty intensive engagement in therapy. So one of the standard ways that we do that is that we require people to commit to being here for at least 4 weeks. And part of my responsibility as the director is when people are applying and I'm learning more about their story, I'm learning more about what brings them here, I get a sense of how long they might need to be here and what
Right.
sort of components they would need.
That makes
And
sense.
then, so we have individual therapy, we have couples therapy, we have family, we have pastoral, we have women's group, we have men's group, we have community group, we have kids group. So we have all of these different components that the people can be engaged in. And so we have like our standard aspects of that. And then we have a basketball court, we have a swimming pool, we have a jungle gym, we have a library, we have all of those things that are available to people so that they can also have, fun and do fun things with their family. And
Right.
part of what I really love about LinkCare, where we are being in Fresno is so great in its location. We have great things here in our city, and we have great things that are just 45 minutes to 2 hours from us. So
Right.
we encourage our missionaries while they're here, take advantage of the fact that you can do a day trip to the Sequoias. You can do maybe even a weekend to the coast, enjoy what is so beautiful about our state. And also what is really great about Fresno. So we make sure people get over to the farmers markets, they get over to Old Town, they go downtown, they go to Woodward. So we try and get them kind of connected to the city as well.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And I didn't think, I mean, when I was first talking to you in this, I was just thinking adults, but when you mentioned kids, I was like, wow, yeah, there is probably a huge opportunity where families are going to be missionaries in countries, and the kids are excited about it, but they might not understand, and maybe coming
Mm-hmm.
back and not understanding why mommy or daddy experienced what they experienced, and now they're maybe depressed or a certain way that affects the entire family. So to have a place to rest, but also to have kind of the normal things that that adults probably grew up with and they probably had before they left, like a basketball court or a swimming pool, and having access to that.
Yeah,
I mean, to me, that might sound like an amenity when you first hear about it, but
sure.
it's almost like I'm hearing it now. It's like it's almost a necessity, like just having some normalty and normal life and
Yes.
that way, and just being calm about that in a safe environment. And so
Yeah.
that's really encouraging to hear. Now, another
Gordon, I'm
thing,
glad you mentioned that, because that also shows me how much I often think about adults. And so often that's our primary focus.
yeah,
But we really also do exist for families and kids. And
yeah,
so we have the opportunity to do things like a kids group. And part of our kids group that we do is getting topics and really focusing on what does it mean to be what's called a third culture kid, that you are, you're an American,
right,
but you grew up in Thailand, but you're not, a national, but you're not American because you've never lived here. So what does it mean to have this third culture? So we have a group where other missionary kids they can all come together and really understand the unique pieces of being a third culture kid, a missionary kid. And what does that look like in terms of making friends, of understanding your identity, of
right,
having to move often and say goodbye. And so that's a unique piece. What I also really love about our program is we are trying to understand and look at the entire system, the entire family. So if we're bringing a family and say we're bringing a family because, dad's really struggling with severe depression, like the family's not coming because of dad. The family is coming for the family. And what does it mean that, yes, dad may be having a significant challenge, but how is that impacting the entire family?
right,
What does
yeah,
that look like to really support and come alongside all of them? And restore everyone, not just what you might think of as like the kind of problem person or the person having the difficulty. Everybody's going to be having the difficulty. It's going to influence all of them.
Yeah, I'm glad you explained that more, because that's really important for families to understand,
Yeah.
and even more for us to understand that you offer that, and that families can take advantage of that and heal together and be a stronger
Yeah.
family as a result. Now, I want to jump
Yeah.
back to you mentioned Fresno's a great place, right? And this podcast is for Fresno, and I think you and I share the heart where we love our city. There's some strengths and weaknesses, but we want to be for Fresno, and so.
Yes.
I asked this to all the guests, and I just want to ask you personally, just briefly, what are you for, or how did you get into what you're doing? What are you for?
Yeah. I my route to getting to where I'm at was a little bit, meandering. But part of what brought me to becoming a psychologist really was early on seeing so many people in the church and witnessing it that while people can have very deep faith and a strong commitment to the Lord, could still really be struggling. And how often in the church there were these misconceptions and sometimes really hurtful beliefs about mental health. What does it mean to struggle?
Oh, yeah.
What does it mean to have pain and depression? And so I'm really for finding a way for the church and people in missions to really heal and understand all that psychological research and science and therapy can offer them, but not to neglect their faith and not to neglect the healing power of the presence of the Lord and community and prayer. And so I think about LinkCare as this really beautiful place that brings those two pieces together, that integrates the best of what psychology has to offer us about human functioning and the brain and therapy and addiction and all of that, with the tremendous power of the Lord and healing and prayer. And what does it mean that we are his children and we serve in communities? And so when I came to LinkCare, kind of in a roundabout way, I have found that it is a really good fit for me, bringing all those pieces together. And I really love that it's in Fresno, because I grew up in Fresno, and I grew up hearing such negative things about Fresno, such awful cliche terms and things like that.
Right.
And I think about that this gives us an opportunity to show people Fresno's doing amazing things, and we're seeking to turn things around and be a place of healing. And I love that Fresno gets to be a place of healing and a place of restoration. And it doesn't just have to be this place that everybody hears such negative things about, which I grew up hearing. And I think I often said very similar things: armpit of California, highest crime rates and all of that.
It was almost trendy in a way.
Yeah. And I stepped away for a little bit to get my training in college and graduate school, and came back. And I think I came back really appreciating just how great Fresno is. And there's so much that we can capitalize, and also just tremendous opportunities to minister to people, whether that's locally or for the purposes of LinkCare internationally. And I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, and that's a good point, what you just said there. And internationally, I understand that LinkCare is one of the most well-known international mission sites, or maybe even the international mission site for all the things that you guys offer. And the fact that it's here in Fresno, it's amazing, and I like to ask my guests, like, why do you believe in your organization? Why is this important to the world? Why is it important to Fresno? And I think part of it's probably the location and just being able to have people come here from all around the world, and to be in an environment that is, we're not like a crazy LA or New York City, but we do have, like you said, Yosemite or Sequoias or all the beaches and stuff. And I just think it's just set up perfectly. And you're right. It is a gym that we have here, what you guys are doing.
Yeah. What's neat too is that because missionaries will often do pretty regular like furloughs where they come home and they raise support, it's an opportunity for local churches to have here in Fresno have their missionaries come and get, the kind of care and restoration, but also connect with them and be with them and support them while they're on camp, in this area. And so what ends up happening sometimes for missionaries is Fresno starts to become a hub, like a base for them. And they connect with the local churches so that they can kind of almost kill two birds with one stone. They can come, they can get restored, but they can also connect with supporters. They can reach back to their, supporting communities and connect with them, which I think is really pretty cool.
Yeah, no, that is really, really cool. All right, Annie. So we talked about a lot. I think this has been a wonderful conversation about the missions and the member care that you guys do, that you oversee. If we want to get involved, if we want to help as an audience, how can we help you guys? What would you suggest?
Yeah. What I don't want people to hear is, oh, we just need your money, or we just need your dollars, or come do a work day. There's definitely needs for that. And we are, like any nonprofit, have that. What I really want people to hear is healing happens in community. Healing happens through relationships. And so I think there's so much that Fresno have to offer that I don't even know what's here sometimes, right? So I would love for people to feel comfortable reaching out to me and just saying, hey, Annie, I actually, I'm a yoga instructor. How could I help out? Hey, I'm an art therapy instructor. Hey, I have a woodworking shop. What could we do so that we can collaborate? We can think about the ways in which you have resources, talents, expertise that LinkCare could benefit from. And I would just say, let's just have that conversation. Don't feel like you have to have any idea what that looks like. I would love for people to feel comfortable just reaching out to me and saying, oh, I love what you're doing. I have no idea how to help, but here's what I do. And then I can say, great, let's have a conversation. Let's figure that out together, what it might look like for you to partner with LinkCare. Maybe that does look like donating time to do projects that we have here, or it is maybe you have the really unique ability to do something that could be an asset to our program. And then if we have a missionary that's here and they said, I really miss being able to do some woodworking. Somebody comes and says, actually, I really have a need for finding a great, and they're looking for a doctor that's a specialist. I know you have a heart for missions. I now know I can refer to you and know that you're going to maybe prioritize making sure that that person gets connected with you. And it's really just about building those relationships.
Yeah, and that makes so much sense. I mean, that's exciting for me. Just to be able to teach our missionaries maybe new things, new habits in a good way. Or I think from our previous conversation, they're already doing a lot of hands-on work. So just to continue to do stuff, right? Part of the resting period for some people like myself is I need to do. Like when my wife and I go to the beach, she sits on the sand and looks at the waves. And I'm like, does anybody want to play football with me on the beach? Because I need to do something. I can't just sit and look at the waves. And so I think some of these missionaries probably, in third world countries, they're not only talking to people, but they got hands-on woodworking,
most
potentially
assuredly
types of things. So that's really
they're teaching. Yeah, they're teaching trades, they're teaching skills.
Yeah, that's
and
awesome.
they miss doing that. So often too, missionaries, when they come, they aren't able to bring a lot of the things that they would normally be able to, that we all have the luxury of having. So maybe that's like sporting equipment, all of the things that we naturally might have, they're not able to bring. And so if someone says, hey, actually, when your missionaries are here, if they want to come rent some of our bikes, because I have a bike shop and we would love to let them have bikes, I'd be like, fantastic. Okay, and I can send them that way, or I can find out, oh, we're having this at our church, we're having this, really fun sport day. The more I just know what happens in our community, I can make those connections.
Yeah, well, that sounds amazing. I want to encourage our audience listening and watching that if something sparks interest to you, reach out to Annie.
Yes.
And Annie, how can they reach out to you?
Easiest way is through my email. If you go to our website, linkcare.org, you'll see bios. My email is just my name, anniefujikawa @linkcare.org. And all of our contact information is there. And then I'm happy to do phone calls, emails. When COVID is a little bit less regulated, then we can meet in person and have a conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll have her contact in the show notes as well. So Annie, I just appreciate you being on the show. I'd like to give you 60 seconds. If anything we didn't cover, do you have any tips or last minute thoughts or anything you just want to share with the audience before we wrap up here?
Yeah, I think I have a little bit of two thoughts. When you think about your missionaries or people that you know or missions work, think about recommending connecting them to LinkCare. It doesn't necessarily mean they have to even be in need of our services, but just so that they know we're here. Any ways that we can spread the word, it would be fantastic and so appreciated. And I think, Gordon, what you started with, I really want to emphasize the understanding that missionaries are people like the rest of us. They're no more spiritual. They're no more perfect than any of us. And they need our care in just as much as we all need care, whatever that might look like. And so I think as we can think about that and maybe bring off some of the stigma that might come with missionaries receiving this kind of care, will really be helping them and help further the kingdom.
Yeah, that's just such a good reminder. We're all people. We all have struggles. We all need to help each other, and relationships, are a great pathway to healing. So
exactly.
Well, Annie, I just appreciate you being on the show. Thank you so much for talking with me. And I really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. This was very fun.
Well, that was an inspiring conversation. I learned a lot about missions and missionaries and how they're just like everyday people. They go to a third world country, and just like many of us, we might have culture shock or have a language barrier. There's a lot to learn. There's a learning curve in spreading the gospel around the world. So continue to pray for your missionaries at your church. And thank you again, Annie, for just being on the show and teaching us a lot about what LinkCare can do to help missionaries and how we can pray for them. I also want to thank our listeners for watching and listening to this podcast. Please subscribe, like, rate, review, all the things you can do to help us get the word out. We truly appreciate it. If you were moved by this conversation and you want to help LinkCare and Annie make a greater impact to their missionaries and member care, well, remember, she talked about, let's be creative. Let's think of ways we can partner with people's skill set and with LinkCare about how we can serve the missionary community there. You can, if you have art classes or yoga classes or woodworking skills you can teach, just email Annie. You can email her at anniefujikawa@linkcare.org. That's anniefujikawa@linkcare.org. And just get creative. Just start the conversation through email and say, hey, I heard what you had to say. I can do this or that, and I just want to help LinkCare. And maybe just getting the conversation going can lead to a huge impact. Also, if you want to thank Annie or any of our guests for all the hard work that often goes unrecognized, you can send her a digital thank you. If you go to our website at forfresno.com, click on this episode and scroll down and let them know that you appreciate them by sending them a digital thank you. We've got another fantastic conversation next week with Andrew File. He's the director of Every Neighborhood Partnership. You don't want to miss it. And remember, you matter, your impact matters because you are the church. And we're here to serve our city.